Carolina Insider is presented by Wells Fargo, official sponsor of Carolina Athletics.
We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider. My name is Jones Angel. That over there is Adam Lucas, and we have a busy show coming up. A lot of Tar Heel action and a lot of success. We're talking women's basketball. We're talking lacrosses, tennises, baseball. Everybody's playing, it feels like, and everybody's been winning, so that's good. We'll talk about that. Adam, we have, what an interview. Tyler Hansbrough. We're going to talk to Tyler, and I think people will really enjoy that, is talking to Tyler some about his podcast that he does now and playing in China and some other things as well.
The mature Tyler.
Yeah, that's right.
Perhaps a side of Tyler you haven't seen recently, so definitely worth checking out.
We'll have the social drive, of course, as well after that. The entire show brought to you by Wells Fargo. And Adam, boy, we really were hoping to talk about basketball here at the top and talk about, oh man, 3 straight great wins. Carolina really with some positive momentum. They got 2/3 of the way there with some nice wins over Northeastern and then Louisville, of course, this past weekend. But, man, felt like the Heels took a step back on Wednesday night against Marquette, 83-70, the final, as the Golden Eagles pick up just their 11th win of the season. They're now 11-12, and feels like the story of the year to this point. 2 steps forward, 1 step back for the Heels.
Too many Carolina turnovers. Not good enough Carolina defense to force enough Marquette misses, as Golden Eagles shot better than 50% from the field, and not enough, just not enough of pretty much anything from the Tar Heels. Is that's the risk you're going to take if you're going to schedule an extra game and you're going to play a capable Marquette team. You could lose the game, and Carolina did. We talked on the audio pod about Carolina's not good enough yet to just show up, and it felt like in some ways they just showed up on Wednesday.
Adam, I think the particular disappointment here is when you juxtapose this with Saturday's performance. When you see what Carolina can be, and we've seen that at times this year, but we've also seen this Tar Heel team at times this year, and that lack of consistency is the real frustrating part.
And at some point, you are what you are. Carolina is not the team that blew out Louisville, and they are not the team that lost to Marquette, but they are the team that is capable of doing either one. And that's not really what we're used to seeing from a Carolina team. At this point in the season, you usually have a pretty good handle on, well, which Tar Heels are going to arrive at the arena tonight. Not really sure at this point, and I think that is the defining characteristic of this year's team.
So, up next for the Tar Heels back at home, they will face Florida State. That is a 4 o'clock game on Saturday afternoon. We'll be on the air at 3 p.m. radio-wise for that one. That starts a difficult final stretch of 3 ACC games. The FSU game, then at Syracuse on a quick turnaround on a Monday night contest, and then the Tar Heels host Duke in the Smith Center next Saturday as well. So 3 tough ACC games coming up for the Heels to finish the year. So, Adam, that takes us to Carolina's women's basketball team. The Tar Heels closing out their regular season here over the next few weeks, and that includes a matchup with Georgia Tech. That's the final home game of the season, which is also Senior Day in Carmichael. And, Adam, some important seniors will be playing their final game of the season.
Yeah, Tar Heels going to be sorry to see these ladies go. Of course, you've gotten to know Janelle Bailey. She's a 4-year starter, leading scorer for the Tar Heels. And then you got the 2 grad transfers, Stephanie Watts, who – it's confusing, but she's played 4 of her 5 years here in Chapel Hill, Jones. Then she left, then she came back. And, of course, Petra Holoshinska, who we know. You all saw her on the video pod, so, of course, you're familiar with her. A very strong senior core as the Tar Heels in position to make a postseason push.
And, Adam, interesting. So those are the top 3 scorers for Carolina that are all seniors. And, of course, you never want to lose that much talent and productivity. But the good news is that the Tar Heels are bringing in one of the top-ranked recruiting classes in the country, a 4-person class, including 3 that are McDonald's All-America. So certainly this has been a great freshman class that's currently in Chapel Hill. Of Courtney Banghart and her staff following that up with another great class as they continue to build the talent and depth of that program.
And interesting to see how Courtney Banghart is recruited. Got one McDonald's All-America from the state of North Carolina and then bridged out a little bit, much like Mac Brown, who, of course, good friends with Courtney Banghart, dominate the state and then work outwards.
And as Adam mentioned, a couple of big games here late for the Tar Heels as far as their potential NCAA tournament berth for the women's basketball team. They're right there on the edge. Their final two games are against teams that are also kind of right there in the mix for the NCAA tournament, Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech, both of which currently would be in the tournament according to projections. So some big opportunities here for Carolina over the last week and a half or so of the regular season as they get ready for the postseason. All right, let's change the page to some spring sports that are underway. And Adam, 4 teams ranked number 1 in the nation out of the spring sports right now. Let's start with women's lacrosse. They are number 1 and improved to 3-0 on the season. An impressive weekend this past weekend for women's lax with wins over number 7 Florida and also High Point this past weekend.
We talked about this some on the audio pod about just what a difference there seems to be in Carolina women's lacrosse between some of their competitors. Ton of athletes on that squad, and as you would expect, some ACC honors for that team as well after such a good weekend. Scotty Rose Growney takes the Offensive Player of the Week honors. Emma Trenchard on the defensive side. Tar Heels, a deserved number 1 in the country, and some big matches coming up as well.
They outscored Florida and High Point by a combined score of 30-10 in those 2 games. Number 1 in men's lacrosse as well for the Tar Heels. First time since 2017 that the Tar Heels have been ranked number 1 in men's lax. So that's women's lacrosse and men's lacrosse. Tar Heels are 4-0 on the men's side of things this past week, able to pick up their first road victory of the season at Richmond. They will host High Point, who, if you may have noticed there in the rankings, also ranked number 15. Already the second meeting between those 2 teams. Carolina able to beat High Point 17-15 the first time they met. So another ranked matchup coming here for Carolina lacrosse. That is on Saturday that the guys host the Panthers. So number 1 in women's lax and also men's lax. Let's go to the tennis side of things. Number 1 in both women's tennis and men's tennis as well. That includes, you see there, for the women's tennis, a 5-2 win over number 14 Virginia in their latest action. Adam, that is 28 consecutive dual match victories for the women's tennis program. That is a school record.
That's just an incredible stat. 28 matches in a row in which you didn't have a bad day as a team. That's not going to happen. It's also not going to happen that you have 4 number 1 ranked teams all at one time. We've talked about 3 number 1 teams, and there's still another one.
Yeah, men's tennis number 1 in the country as well. You see there taking home that number 1 ranking after winning the ITA Indoor National title. They have a couple of conference matchups coming this weekend against Clemson and also Georgia Tech. So a lot of good things happening in those sports, but they are not the only sports with success. Adam, let's talk a little baseball as Carolina baseball starting its season 4-0, a weekend series sweep of James Madison, and then a midweek win over Elon as well. Brand new head coach Scott Forbes getting things going off the right foot here for the Diamond Heels.
And off to a really good start in pretty much every facet of the game. Coach Forbes getting his first win. He got a jersey. He got the game ball. He got a little bit of everything after the Tar Heels beat James Madison and Elon. And it's only going to get tougher because Virginia's coming to town this weekend. Really
great to see for Scott Forbes, Adam, somebody who longtime assistant in Chapel Hill, stuck with Carolina and had an opportunity at some other head coaching jobs, stayed here in Chapel Hill and earned that nod when Mike Fox elected to retire. Also, Austin Love, ACC Pitcher of the Week this past week. He had 6 innings of hitless baseball against James Madison. There's Austin, had 9 strikeouts and 2 walks in that performance, so a really strong start. He was touching 93, 94 in that game, so great to see Austin Love and the Tar Heels off to a terrific start. Softball. Also a good start. 4 of 5 to start the season. They had 1 game against Boston College, unfortunately canceled due to weather, then won the next 2 against the Eagles, then took 2 of 3 against Syracuse, so a 4-1 start, and that included Brittany Pickett for the Tar Heels for the 9th time in her career being named ACC Pitcher of the Week. And Adam, her numbers are crazy. Look at that, 21 innings, 30 strikeouts, an ERA of just about half a run, and a 3-0 record as well. So watch out for Brittany Pickett.
Consecutive double-digit strikeout games. You're probably not going to put the ball in play very much when Brittany Pickett's in the circle for the Tar Heels.
Couple other sports just want to say good luck to as they head to the ACC tournament this weekend. Wrestling, it is at NC State. Austin O'Connor is the top seed, by the way, individually at 149. And also fencing, ACC tournament is this weekend, and that is in Carmichael in Chapel Hill. So best of luck to those programs, wrestling and fencing, as they go to the ACC tournaments. All right, Adam, as we mentioned at the top of the show, all-time guest here joining us, Tyler Hansbrough. You know Tyler, of course, Carolina's all-time leading scorer and rebounder. Adam and I had a chance to catch up with Tyler a couple of days ago. You'll notice we're in a different spot. We're in our audio studio here in the Media and Communication Center where we chatted with Tyler. Let's go to that. We're going to come back. We have our social drive coming up after our chat with Tyler here on the Carolina Insider.
Me and my buddy, we started a podcast just joking around, a golf buddy, Brandon Staten, and we call it Sleep Hawk Worldwide, and we just kind of did it out of fun. And we started doing the games and covering some things that we just want to cover, some topics, and then all of a sudden, one day, all our friends, all our girlfriends wanted to watch The Bachelor or Bachelorette, and so I was like, well, we'll do a review on the podcast. And then all of a sudden, nobody wanted to talk about sports. They just wanted us to cover the podcast or the Bachelorettes. And then now we're doing The Bachelor. So we do have a weekly review of The Bachelor and Bachelorette. If you guys are into that, you should check it out. It's real fun. And we're having a good time breaking it down. But it's been kind of fun. Something to do, keep me occupied during quarantine and all this whole situation.
Adam, if I told you in 2009 that one day Tyler Hansbrough would have a podcast breaking down The Bachelor, would you have believed me?
I would have thought I had been hit on the head, perhaps, and woken up and not known where I was.
That just shows you how diverse Tyler is.
Yeah.
He can go a lot of different directions.
Well, so, Tyler, don't hide your light under a bushel. What's happening with The Bachelor right now? What's your take on what's going on in that world?
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know I have a real soft side. And so when it comes to finding love and dissecting and breaking down what's realistic and is this true love or not true love? I kind of get emotional, and that's where we're talking about. And we laugh about it, and it is funny, but it is some good. I mean, it's a great conversation to break down the different dynamics of the Bachelor and Bachelorette and all this stuff. It is pretty funny, but there's some awkward moments in there. And I remember back in college, I was so quiet. I could have never imagined that I would be starting a podcast and then be covering The Bachelor. But I actually started watching the show with my mom, and so we started watching it and have conversations about it. So I've always been kind of up to date on it.
So in all seriousness, I think that's a great point. You were a pretty quiet guy when you were here. Obviously, you're older and more mature now. When did you start realizing that you were comfortable and enjoyed being a little more outward focused?
It took some time. I had a little social anxiety, and I guess, when I was in college, I just kind of blew up so quickly and kind of walked around. I just had some awkward conversations, and I wasn't really the most open person or the most vocal or the most social. So it took some time to get, to figure that out. And then I just stopped caring what people said or the interactions I had. And I just, I truly feel like I'm myself more now, and I'm, kind of coming out of my shell. And this is something I enjoy doing. And this is one of my good buddies, and we have a great time. But, so it's been exciting.
How'd you figure out not to care what everybody thought? Jones is still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, my New Year's resolution, and I'll put it politely, is stop caring what other people think. And that was a big deal for me because sometimes, I was, sometimes when you play, especially basketball in college, and I was I felt like we were on TV all the time. And I felt like, there's these expectations that the media puts on you, your close friends, family, and everything. And then I just felt overwhelmed at times. I had so many people telling me try to do different things. And then finally when I was just like, you know what, this is my life, so I'm going to do what I want. And if people don't like that, then, you know, they can live with it. But this is my decision. This is how I'm going to live. And it's not like, you know, I don't care what my parents think. It's not like I don't care what my brothers think. It was more like, why do I care what this guy is that's writing this news article that I've never met? Why do I want to play for him or try to meet that expectation? And, you know, so ever since then, it's been really good for me to have that mindset. And I think if I would have had this mindset early on in my playing days, I think I would have been a much happier person.
So what else is going on other in your life right now? What's shaking?
With me is I've been playing in China the past few years, and I've really enjoyed it. I'm getting a little older, 35 now. I know it sounds crazy. Time flies. But, you know, I've been healthy enough to continue to play basketball at this age. I love China. I love the people. The country's been great. Basketball has been great over there. So it's been a great experience. I played in Guangzhou 3 years ago, and then I played in Hangzhou 2 years ago. And then last year I played in Sichuan, and I loved all three of the cities. One of my best friends from my hometown went out there with me my first year, Ross Wellen. I called him, and I told him, I was like, listen, once my NBA career is kind of like, you know, getting kind of questionable, I think China's a great place. It's got a good market, good basketball, and I think it's a place where I can go and play some quality basketball and have some fun and make some money. And so I was like, but I don't want to go by myself, so be on standby if you want to go. And this guy didn't even have a passport. And so that was step one, getting Ross a passport. And he comes from we're a town of 17,000, and Guangzhou is a town of 17 million. And so when we went there, we both loved it. We had a great time. Basketball was, you know, for me personally, was great. I really enjoyed it, and had a great year. Never thought I would love China like I do. And so Ross actually, after the season was over, he looked at me, he's like, man, I ain't going back. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, man, I can't go back to Poplar Bluff, man. This is too good. He's like, man, I like it out here. There's a lot of things. He started working some camps. He started teaching English and started, you know, teaching basketball to younger kids in China. And then eventually he met his wife in China, and he's been living in China ever since.
Wow.
And so I have a connect, and then he always keeps me up to date what's going on in China. And so it's real easy for me to go back to China and play basketball because I know I have, you know, Ross has been like a brother to me. And so I have that connection in China, and so we can always get back. And, you know, there's no like homesick, but, you know, I enjoy going to China and I enjoy playing. And I still feel like I'm really good at what I do.
What is something about China that maybe an average American doesn't know or understand, or something that's really cool over there that maybe you just wouldn't know unless you were there?
Man, it is overwhelming. There's so many things to China, and the first thing that someone always I always get asked, what do you eat? And everyone always they always ask that question, what do you eat? And I was like, man, China's so big. You can go to McDonald's, you can go to Starbucks. It may be a little different, but you just got to know what you order. And the malls are huge. They have a lot of Western type malls there too. So you recognize a lot of things that you recognize here. Yeah, so it's you might get overwhelmed. I mean, you have to learn the train system out. And once you do that, it's a great country. And there's a lot of things that are similar, but also the language barrier is difficult, because if I were to, just wander in the street and I'd be like, hey man, do you know where the mall is? They would throw their arms like, no English. And if you raise your hand and say mall, and they'd be like, oh, that way. Just don't overwhelm them with too much English, and they'll just say the main point. It's kind of like when I was in college. That's how I talk.
Rebound, dunk.
So, yeah, so China's been great.
If I had told summer, fall 2005 Tyler Hansbrough, not only are you going to go to China, but you're actually going to like it, what would you have thought the likelihood of that being a true statement would be?
None. I can't believe it. When I first got to China, I mean, it took me at least 5 months. Me and my buddy Ross, I'm like, man, can you believe we're in China? He's like, no, man. And now when I go over there, I was like, man, can you believe you're living in China and you're married in China? Oh.
So you obviously, I mean, you did incredible things at Carolina. Still Carolina's all-time leading scorer, leading rebounder, ACC's all-time leading scorer. Does that stuff matter to you? Has it hit you at some point where you're like, good gracious, all these people played at Carolina, and I, Tyler Hansbrough, am the leading scorer?
Yeah, it has hit me, and I take great pride in it. I mean, there's so much work that I put in looking back on my body, on my game, and I made the perfect decision coming to China, or to UNC. I don't think anybody, looking back, I mean, I don't know what took me so long to, commit here, but this place has been amazing. For me to be, the all-time scorer in the ACC, and you look at the history of the great players that have come through here, yeah, it's something that I take a lot of pride in, and it wasn't easy, I'll tell you that. And but it has hit me, and I still work out at the Smith Center. When I walk in there, sometimes I'll glance up and I'll see my jersey in the rafters, especially in the front row, and it's still crazy for me to see that, and it's great. I mean, this place is, looking back, I didn't know how much this program, this city, the people, how much this whole place would mean to me until once I left college. Because in college, you kind of live in the moment. You don't really think about that, and you're just a student. But once I left, I didn't realize how great this place was.
Does Carolina translate? You've been around the world now. Does it translate around the world? Do people know you in China as, Tyler Hansbrough, he played for the Tar Heels?
Yeah, I mean, it's that doesn't happen often in China. Like maybe 2 or 3 times I'm over there. But yeah, they have a huge basketball following. It's more NBA oriented in China, and but people still recognize me wherever I go. For my days at UNC.
You are a member of this kind of exclusive club of a national champion. What does that mean? Does that carry extra weight, being a national champion at Carolina?
Oh, yeah, it definitely does. I mean, it creates some good debates who was the best national championship team. But it does carry weight, especially, Coach Williams' whole, his 3 national championships, and just how hard it is to win a national championship. I don't think people really understand that. And that's something that, carries weight with me, is how much work. I mean, we might have been the best team in college 2 years, but we didn't win the national championship. I mean, you have to have a little bit of luck, and you have to have pieces fall in place to win one. And sometimes not the best team in college wins the national championship. And so a lot of people, how hard it is and how much work and how much chemistry the team has to have to hang a national championship. That definitely carries a lot of weight with me. But coming back here, and when you pull up and, we have all these get-togethers in the summer, a lot of former players coming back. And there's some trash talking about, I mean, there's been some great players that didn't get a national championship here. Yeah. And then you play pickup, and a few people will talk a little smack and say, "Well, I got that ring," and it's hard to come back from that.
So, who is the best championship team?
To me, it's 09. I think 09 is the best team to ever play in college basketball, if you ask me. But it'd definitely be between 09 and 05. 17, they're definitely the third, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And but I mean, a lot of people think 05, and but obviously I'm not going to do that. But
if we get to see prime Tyler Hansbrough against prime Sean May in the post, how are you defending Big May, and what are you doing to try to score on him?
Big May, I'd run him, but. We had Ed and Ed Davis coming off the bench. They had Marv coming off the bench, but I'm not sure Big May would line up with me, to be honest with you. He might guard Dion. But Dion was a heck of a player. So, and Ed, he creates problems too. So we had some depth there. And Zeller was actually hurt, which Zeller was a heck of a player.
Always awesome to talk to Tyler, and that conversation presented by Coca-Cola, which together tastes better. Coca-Cola is a proud partner of Carolina Athletics. Adam, fun to talk to Tyler, and our little Tyler's all grown up. He just says he talked about some in that conversation. Just feels so much more comfortable in his own skin now and mature and really enjoying what he's doing.
I think people who maybe haven't seen or heard from Tyler since he was a Tar Heel player might have been a little taken aback by that video, just how much older he seems and more mature, just really seems to be enjoying his life, making the most of it, and looking forward to seeing what comes next for him.
What comes next for us? The social drive. Adam, steer us into social media. We're going to bounce around, find some fun Tar Heel topics, and this starts with, Adam, you found this one a really good find. Reggie McAfee, so you see here, became the first African-American to break the 4-minute barrier in the mile. And Adam, he did it as a Tar Heel.
He did it at the Big Four meet. So Carolina, NC State, Duke, Wake Forest, all at this meet. I didn't know this. Did you know this?
No, I did not.
So I thought this was a good fact. Did it as a Tar Heel. He was actually a finalist for the 1972 Olympic team as well. So definitely a momentous moment for Reggie McAfee.
Tar Heel that is competing on the global stage currently is Crystal Dunn, of course, former Tar Heel women's soccer player, now a member of Team USA there as far as women's soccer. And Adam found this one. Look at this defense from Crystal Dunn.
The comments were a little salty that should have been a penalty.
Bah.
But most of the comments were in a foreign language, so I feel like they were biased. I do not think that was a penalty because Crystal Dunn wouldn't do that. I also think it's interesting that as the women's soccer team's been in the news some here the last few days about what they've decided to do moving forward with the national anthem, more often than not, it's been Crystal Dunn speaking for the team and just kind of representing their thoughts and getting them out there.
Okay, so Crystal Dunn now wearing that Team USA jersey, but the Tar Heels on the football field always wearing that sweet Carolina blue, even when they go to the retro unis. And Adam, I think this is, as the tweet says from Carolina football, this is not a surprise. We all know that the mid to late 90 throwback uniform is incredible, and according to Uniswag, it was the best throwback uniform of the year.
You don't even need to have this vote. You could have just put up different pictures of Tar Heels, and that would have been more fair. I don't know who finished second. It doesn't matter because it wasn't close. That's the best uniform. It would not hurt my feelings if we maybe saw that uniform periodically because Carolina's current uniforms are good.
It's great, yeah.
Throw that one in periodically over the next few years. Everybody be fine with that.
Adam, let's go to the baseball side of things. Of course, Major League Baseball starting to ramp up as teams get closer to the regular season. That includes the Pittsburgh Pirates. And if we're talking about the Pirates, we're talking about Jacob Stallings, former Tar Heel catcher, who has solidified himself as one of the better players on Pittsburgh. You see there the Pirates sending out a tweet. They had Jacob mic'd up for a day around practice. Let's listen and watch to a little bit of that.
You going to throw from the first two or from your feet or
Sure.
second?
Go to third first, and then second, and then maybe first. I don't know. Major League Field Coordinator right here. Still waiting on that 10-page PDF on what you actually do. Is this fastballs?
Time. When I say right, you go left. When I say left, you go right. Right.
Ah!
Everybody know who they got?
Yes, sir. Gosh, can't see a thing, Josh. I can't see a thing. Thrown out of the blue sky.
Great to see Jacob Stallings continuing to have success. Adam and I were calling the baseball games when Jacob was here in Chapel Hill, and I'm great to see him still in the league, having a lot of success, and like I said, one of the better players on the Pittsburgh roster at this point.
I think two things about that video. One, he's still the exact same really good dude that he was when he was in Chapel Hill. And two, don't forget how much work goes into playing that sport, any sport, especially that position at a really high level. You're out there in the Arizona sun taking balls in the dirt in February to be ready for October. And Jacob Stallings got a chance to be an all-star with the Pittsburgh Pirates this year.
All right, let's go from professional baseball to professional basketball. Always like to keep up with what the Tar Heels are doing in the NBA. Oh, we do have one thing before that, Adam. I forgot. We had, and you found this, for Roy Williams' appearance on a Gary Williams podcast.
I gotta say, I kind of like Gary Williams. I think I would like to have him on the audio pod or the video pod. Either pod's fine. He was always very complimentary about Dean Smith, and in this podcast, he was very complimentary about Carolina. He and Coach Williams told some fun stories, as you would expect when those two get together, so well worth a listen.
Certainly highly successful at Ohio State, Maryland, the national title, of course, for the Terrapins back in the early 2000s, and seems to be very comfortable with his life now that he is out of coaching. So go take a listen to that, Coach Williams joining Gary Williams. Now let's take a look at some Tar Heels in the NBA. And Adam, we start with one of our absolute favorites in Coby White, and Coby just continuing to do what he does best, and that's put the ball in the basket.
Man, it's really fun to watch Coby White right now. The Bulls have moved him off the ball some, so he's playing a little less point guard. He's getting fewer assists, but a whole bunch of buckets as he continues to just get shot after shot, basket after basket for Chicago.
24 points and 10 rebounds in this game against Houston. Let's take a listen here to some of Coby's action.
As Coby comes down and says, I'm going to take mine.
Levine to White. Open three. That's good.
And I'm going to tell you right now, that's where Coby's really effective.
Wall doing all the damage for the Rockets. Coby White may have gotten a piece of that.
Well, that should have been a foul.
Yeah, could have made a case easily for that. White now trying to answer, and the bank shot is good.
Here he is right here. He's going to put that body on him and step back off the glass.
Just a little step back kiss off the glass there for Coby White over John Wall. No big deal.
Jen's going to add that kissing sound to his call for the next game Saturday against Florida State.
We always know Coby White's good in the open floor as well there. Sweet move for Coby White. So great to see Coby continue to have success. Oh, let's just watch one more. Yeah, sure. Go left hand. Why not, Coby? So great to see him having success with the Bulls. But Adam, he is not the only Tar Heel having success at the professional level. Danny Green's found a home in Philadelphia.
That seems like that's been a pretty good fit for Danny Green, moving from the Lakers to the 76ers. He has thrown in a plethora of threes this year.
And here's Harrison Barnes. Good to see Harrison back in action. We've had him on a couple times, or showing highlights of him a couple times. Having a really good year for the Kings. He had missed a few games, but back in action and just right back to doing his thing.
Love that three from Harrison, because what did he do after he made it? Thank the passer. So you know he's got the Carolina blood.
There's the finish from Harrison there late in the game. And also this is some G League action. Kenny Williams burying a three.
Kenny Williams was at Carolina's practice, maybe it was about a couple weeks ago now. But Kenny also took some grief on Twitter after his team tweeted out a still photo of him either laying it up or dunking it. It was open to interpretation. His former teammates, including Bryce Johnson, thought it was definitely a layup.
Kenny Williams, member of the Austin Spurs of the G League, did in fact dunk that one, though, because the team eventually sent it out to Bryce Johnson just to make sure he understood. So great to see Kenny having some success. Hopefully he's able to take that step from the G League to the NBA here coming up shortly. All right, Adam, to finish things up, we have a couple of things that maybe only audio pod listeners will fully understand. Earlier this week, we had Raeshawn Terry join us. Of course, Raeshawn, a member of the 2005 National Championship team, went on to big roles in 06 and 07 with Carolina basketball. We talked to him because Raeshawn was so athletic about some of his favorite dunks in Chapel Hill, and he chose this one from the NCAA tournament against Murray State. And Adam, I have to say, in seeing this one again, I remember how good it was, but yes, that is very good.
He took off from a long way away to finish that over a defender. You can see even Raeshawn seems pretty pleased with himself, and I have to say, he was still happy about it 15 years later.
That was in Dayton, Ohio. Tar Heels ended up winning that game against Murray State. Unfortunately, bowed out of the tournament in the second round that year, but we all know it turned out all right for most of that group a couple years later. Adam, we close with maybe, I don't think we've ever had anything quite like this on the video pod. So if you are a frequent visitor to the Southern Pines or Pinehurst area, proud sponsor of the audio podcast, we talked about the crazy large and unique looking squirrels that frequent the Southern Pines Pinehurst area. We received these pictures from Andrea Henshaw and said these type of squirrels are also down in Brunswick County, which is in the very extreme southeastern part of the state. These are called, Adam, fox squirrels.
That's right.
And I don't like them.
Andrea's dad sent these because Andrea's were more paparazzi style photographs. Andrea's dad not scared to get an up close view right here. I mean, that's a big squirrel.
Yeah.
And I think the coloring makes them more intimidating looking.
Yeah, that's right. So just be aware if you're in either Brunswick County, as we now know, or in the Southern Pines or Pinehurst area, watch out for fox squirrels. They're big and they're ugly, so don't mess with them. This has been a big but gorgeous show, and we appreciate you being with us. Can't wait to be back next week. So much going on around Chapel Hill. We'll try to keep you up to date best we can here on the Carolina Insider.
See you later, Big Grit.